Back to the Cheesecake Factory. Or no, not Cheesecake, just Cheese Factory.
Well, as I was saying, I was moved to a second job at the cheese factory, and I was responsible for taking the little barrels that cheese went into and taking them out of a box, putting them on a conveyor belt, and making sure that they were upright so the cheese could go into them. Now, to me, this seemed like a very, very simple job. I had to stand on a stool to reach the box, but the person training me said, when you put the little barrel on the conveyor belt, be sure to stick your finger in the barrel to make sure it's correctly upright. And I thought, well, that seems ridiculous. Who wouldn't know if the little barrel was upright? But after doing this for 8 hours a day, every day, it only took till about the third day that I had no idea if the barrel was upright or not. I would always have to put my finger in it because there were so many barrels in the box, and you had to just keep doing that for 8 hours a day. So you had to put your finger in to make sure if the barrel was correctly upright. And the third job I had at the cheese factory was really fun. This was actually a pretty good job. It was measuring some ingredients that went into the cheese. And I wore a white coat, and I had to wear a mask because of the powder. And I had a little scale, and I would just measure a few things on the scale, and I'd put it in a container. That was probably the most fun. That was my cheese factory job. Then I worked as a cook in a restaurant in Mount Horeb, and I was a breakfast cook, and I would get there at about 5:30 in the morning and work till the afternoon. And the thing I remember about that job is one day we had an event called the Farmers' Day, and there was a convention, and there were tons of farmers in Mount Horeb, and they all wanted to eat breakfast. And we had 3 cooks ready to make breakfast to meet the demands of the crowd, but 2 of the cooks had what might be called a nervous breakdown, and they left crying. And I was the only cook left. They couldn't handle the pressure of the requests and everything, so I was the only cook left, and I did stay on. I remember nobody could order eggs any special way. Everybody got the eggs the same way, and everybody got the bacon and sausage exactly one way. But that was a hard job because it was early hours and just really, really hard work. So again, I thought about college. Then when the kids were teenagers, after I was separated from Grandpa Trey, I did work in a convenience store. I also worked in a drugstore as a clerk. The convenience store was really interesting because you'd meet the most interesting people. I remember one man came along and asked if he could eat his lunch at the convenience store, and I said it'd be okay. But then he said he had just gotten out of prison for killing someone, and I asked him if he'd leave because it was just he and I in the convenience store. So that was another interesting job. Later on, after my divorce, I just continued to work. I worked at a drugstore. I worked at Fashion Gal. I also taught preschool, and I taught dance classes at the Lincoln Center until I graduated.
Okay. I was thinking about just all the things that you've seen in your lifetime. You talked a little bit about getting your first TV at like around 10 years old. And then I was thinking about